You are listening to Peak One Sports.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Sports Page on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton Nix. That's Dan Boyer. Chris Robb could not make it today, but that's all right because
we miss you, Chris.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, of course we miss Chris. Be a different show. First show with just you, Dan, I believe.
Yeah.
Since we've been doing this. So yeah, lots of content to get to. Dan's gonna bring it. He's gonna be carrying the extra weight of Chris. I put it on you. I'm gonna knight you that you're Chris's spot now. Before we get to all that, though, subscribe to our YouTube page, Peak One Sports. Comment, hit that notification button, so you know every time a new episode of any of our great shows will drop. You can also listen to all of the Peak One Sports shows however you listen to podcasts. This show is going to be brought to you by Betalytics. As always, bet with your gut. Don't bet with your gut, excuse me. Yeah, make sure I get that. Don't bet with your gut. Use Betalytics. Yeah. Let them do all of the work for you. They use, I mean, you don't really need to know that much about them. If you listen to any of our other shows, you know, but they use AI, algorithms, player part. They get all that information. It's Betalytics. They use analytics. So all you need to know is you are going to use promo code PEAK1 and you'll get 25% off when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter.
Yeah, using that PEAK1 promo code this week. Betalytics helped me out. I won a little money getting that. Well, let's see. I bet for Dak Prescott to pass for, I think it was like 220. Yeah. I needed Robinson, I believe it was, to rush for like 45 or 50 yards. And then I also had the interception against Howell, which paid off, man. It was a small bet, made a little bit of money, nothing huge. I'm not like retiring tomorrow or anything, but thanks, Betalytics. Appreciate it. So
already
use that
paid
promo
for your
code,
account.
Peak One Sports.
Yeah, Peak1. The promo code's Peak1 for 25% off. It helps us out more if you sign up. Not you, but our listeners sign up for the annual subscription. You're going to get 25% off that annual subscription as opposed to just the monthly subscription. So, but hey, you've already earned your money back just with small bet.
Yeah, it's a great investment if you're using it right and win that money back, you know. So
yeah, and excuse me if I'm zoning out in the middle of my conversations. I'm trying to get my audio correct. Y'all are probably hearing it fine, but to me in my headset's acting up. I need a new headset. It's going up and down. I sound like I'm congested or something. I don't know. But you might hear me clearing my throat a lot. I don't know if that's real or just in my head, but
could be that weather change, man.
Yeah, it was
got cold.
I don't want to say unseasonably cold. I'm sure we're right in the averages, but I woke up and it was below freezing.
Yeah.
Here in Texas, which typically, I guess you'll get random ones now and then, but really our cold spouts don't hit till like February, man. But yeah, you bet Dak passing yards, which he's just on a roll again. I know it's crappy teams. But
4 of his last 5 games, though, 300 yards.
331 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Carolina. So
yeah, no interceptions, 22 of 32. I mean, right now he was leading in touchdowns until I think Josh Allen's leading now. He's got one more. But he's completing 70% of his passes this year. He's, I think, number 7 in yards. I'm not trying to make the case for Dak for MVP. I mean, he's having a great season, and if they can beat the Eagles, beat the Seahawks this week, if they can continue to win, that's typically where you find your MVP is team with the best record. And does the quarterback, it's going to be a quarterback, does he have, good enough stats? Again, I still peg Dak. Right now he's playing top 5 caliber quarterback, which that's his best. He can play that. Typically he's like 9th, 10th in the best in the league, but he's playing out of his mind right now. And, as a Cowboys fan, we're going to take it.
No, absolutely, I agree. It's insane to me that, just a few weeks ago I was really kind of anti Dak and, just talking about like he's not performing at like the caliber that I'd like to see him performing at and everything. And then these last 5 weeks and everything, even in that short game where he didn't get the 300 yards against Carolina, he still played a good game. It was well rounded football. It's managed to just honestly shut me up since I've said anything negative about him. Because I mean, there's not a whole lot to say negative about him. He hasn't had a lot of turnovers. He's been throwing a ton of touchdowns, managing to move our offense efficiently down the field. We actually got like I think 3 of our touchdowns this week were red zone touchdowns. So we're getting to be more efficient in the red zone and everything, which I like to see a lot. But man, Dak really is just playing some lights out football right now. There's hardly anything to complain about.
Yeah, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They can only play
Yeah.
their schedule, and the last few weeks they've been doing that. Crazy stats. I mean, obviously they're undefeated this year at home. Um, they've won every game at home by at least 20 points. They have not trailed at home this season. Um, just blowing teams out. Now that may change. Now they're playing Seattle, who's a little bit more respectable opponent. Then they'll play Philadelphia. So,
Yeah,
uh,
we've got a long stretch of just hard, tough games. I think half the teams in our next 6 games, the finishing the season, are all leading their divisions. We got Miami, we got Philly, Detroit.
Buffalo,
Detroit's the other one that's leading their
Detroit,
division.
Buffalo.
So
Well, Buffalo's not leading their division because of Miami, but Buffalo's a good
no,
opponent.
Buffalo's really slid off, but it's going to be a tough matchup too. I mean, like we were just kind of talking about this, but Josh Allen just went off for over 400 total yards and 5 touchdowns and ended up losing. And I mean that's not normally a stat line that you put out with an L next to it. So I mean he's performing, and we're definitely going to have to turn it on in order to beat the Bills. But these other matchups, I mean Seattle's no slouch either. They're on the I think they're the bottom of the NFC playoff list, but I mean they're still got a winning record and going to make the playoffs as it stands right now. So, I mean, these matchups over the next 5 weeks and everything are going to be tough, tough matchups. And not just for our offense, but for our defense as well, which has been really exciting to watch. Uh, Bland setting an NFL record, getting that pick six, ready to just man, I just as the game was wearing on, we were getting into that fourth quarter. I felt like it more and more each play. Howell's getting like more and more desperate. The Commanders are throwing more and more, and then Bland snatched up that pick six. Man, it was a pretty nice way to cap off the game. But yeah, it's going to be a tough next 5 6 weeks to round out the season.
Yeah, and yeah, they're they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're blowing out these teams. I mean, you hope San Francisco was kind of uh, just an exemption to how they've been playing. I mean, because even after beating the Cowboys, the 49ers lost a few games against teams they should have beat. And then, of course, Arizona. I mean, we don't know what happened there, but that was so long ago now that, you know, Cowboys will get on these runs and they'll disappoint you.
Yeah,
But again, I think the only team they have left on their schedule that is just, you don't want to say they're going to walk over them, but that's what they've been doing is, playing Washington again. They have one more game against them, but yeah, we mentioned Seattle, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. It's not going to be a cakewalk. You're hoping you, at minimum, go 500 against those teams. Luckily, if you're looking at the playoff race, because right now you're a wild card, obviously, so you're hoping for a Philadelphia loss there, where next week you could, or the week after next, you could possibly challenge them for the top spot in the NFC East, which you sort of still have that opportunity because they do play San Francisco. So one way or the other, they're going to lose. One of those teams are going to lose. And then if you look at the playoff race, really all the other wild card spots that are in the hunt, all are like below 500 or right at 500. I mean, the
yeah.
Falcons are in the playoffs, leading their division at 5-6. Is that right? 5-6.
Yeah, I think
Trying to do the
so.
math. Um, so it would be, not because they've been playing so, not just because they've been playing so great, but the losing streak they'd have to go on to miss the playoffs right now um, would be one of the all-time, blown leads for the Cowboys because they should be like, I don't know percentage wise, but it feels like they should be like 90% in the playoffs right now, considering all those teams are like under 500 or right out there, and you just need one more game and you have a winning season.
Yeah, I mean, even if we go 500 over the next 6 weeks, I don't necessarily think the Cowboys will like drop out of the wild card race.
No, that'd put
But
you at like 11 wins if you were able to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. But to be honest, like I think for obvious reasons, like we would rather win more of these
Yeah,
games.
oh, no,
Hopefully,
no, for sure.
Philly can lose a few, like especially this next one to the 49ers. But man, I really thought Philly was going to lose to the Bills or who was it that they played the week before?
Yeah, they almost lost that. Hurts played terrible in that game.
Yeah, and they managed to just pull it out fourth quarter. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if you can play strong and finish strong in a fourth quarter, I mean that'll win you football games like all season. Just finish strong. And I mean, that's exactly what Philly's been doing in some of these tougher games. I was definitely hoping they were going to lose, at least one over the next 3 weeks, but seems like they've got a real shot at, going 3-0 over the next 3 weeks, making it a real tough matchup for the Cowboys coming up. But man, just watching these Eagles play right now is tough as a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that comes down to hurt you where, of course, you just want these to be easy games, blowout, everybody plays great. But when it comes down to it, games that they were close, the Eagles game they lose, Arizona, they have a chance to come back and win at the end, and Dak throws an interception. Do you worry at all that because the Cowboys aren't going to blow out the Eagles, and probably not the other way around either? That this is going to be a close game. You saw it a few weeks ago. Does that help the Eagles that they've been in these fight it out, knuckle bashing games where the Cowboys have just been blowing out the other teams?
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt you. It definitely like shows that your team has plenty of confidence and poise and kind of stick to itiveness to be able to really finish out a game, especially when you're in those positions. I mean, just against the Bills, the Eagles were, down 10 at halftime. And I mean, honestly, it was crazy competitive there in the second half because Hurts started off so bad in that first half. I think he had like four completions or something for like 30 yards just in the first half, like just not playing very good football. And I mean, you can't necessarily blame him. It was downpouring the whole game, but the way he really like put it together there in that second half, and it was like they scored, Bills, respond back, and then the fourth quarter started, and it was just all Eagles after that. Just great poise by them. I think the advantage here though for the Cowboys in this particular situation is that you could have learned a lot from how the Bills like played defense and were able to contain and stop Hurts from doing too much damage, especially in that first half. And then being able to like play the lights out defense that we're actually playing, the Cowboys are actually playing for a full four quarters and like not losing it in that last quarter and everything. Um, that hasn't necessarily happened just yet. Now, you keep saying too, like, you got to play your schedule. And, we haven't exactly been playing like the most difficult or highest ranked teams in the league the last few weeks. But I definitely think these last few weeks have helped both our offense and defense to kind of get into that rhythm, find their personality a little bit and figure out who they are and just start to play better and better football. Cowboys are still scoring what, like 35 points a game, I think. They're 30 something average. I think the last time I looked, they were only second to Miami, and it was by like half a point or something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like they're scoring a lot, which is great to see the offense really kind of putting that together. And like I said, watching them kind of put a few red zone touchdowns together this week was also kind of a relief. And then also watching the defense just play the way they are. And then I don't know if you heard, I think they just announced it today, but Shaquille Leonard, who was released by the Colts last week,
Yeah.
has
Meeting with the
a
Cowboys.
meeting with the Cowboys. Now, he's also had a few other invites from a few other teams. I think the Eagles are on that list. But I mean, I think it goes to show that, like, the Cowboys are willing to kind of try and make this push and solidify things on defense to help us make this push to finish out the year, get to the playoffs, and like really make a strong, fight for this. Uh, but yeah, I think our defense is just playing such lights out ball with Bland's pick six. Parson got another sack and a half,
Yeah.
like playing great, great defensive ball and
And
just learning from
really,
what the Bills did.
on that, I know we're just splitting hairs. It should have been 2 sacks
Yeah, it should
because
have been.
really he got out of that first sack, and then Parsons got him. We're not going to get real specific because it doesn't matter. It's only half a
Right. Yeah.
sack, but really he I don't even remember who it was. Odigizua maybe.
Yeah.
But he got out of that
Definitely.
first one, and then Parsons took him down.
Yeah.
So it really should have been 2 sacks. But he's Parsons is really giving off defensive player of the year vibes
Oh
right
man,
now.
if it's not him or Bland, I don't understand the criteria for winning defensive player of the year. You know what I mean? Like these guys are just playing such lights out ball on that side of the ball, just really dominating their positions. I have a hard time naming better players at their positions right now based on the way they're
Yeah,
playing. I mean, Parsons is basically good for a sack almost every week right now. Bland is almost good for an interception every week, and it seems like every other week it's a pick six. I mean, setting an NFL record and there's still 6 games to go. Like
so
that's
you
kind of
sent me,
crazy.
yeah, you sent me that meme, which I've seen. That's like he has more touchdowns than, or as many as Kelsey and
Yeah,
Devontae Smith and all. So I wonder. I mean, he has the most touchdowns on defense for sure, right? Like
yeah,
I couldn't even. I mean, because if you got that many fumble recoveries for a touchdown, I think that'd be more impressive than interceptions. So he's got to be leading. So if you're leading in touchdowns, you have to be in that conversation. I
no,
agree.
definitely.
Um, Sticking with the Eagles and Bills, is it maybe time to start talking about Josh Allen and really what his reputation's becoming in big games? Because I mean, obviously he hasn't had a great year. He started off really so like nobody in the beginning of his career, nobody really thought of Josh Allen as a superstar. He was just kind of going through those recycled Buffalo QBs for a while. And then all of a sudden, the last, I don't know, 4 years, maybe not even that much, he gets thrust into that, going to AFC Championship game, playing the Chiefs multiple times in the playoffs, putting up stats. And I think we were all giving him a pass for a while of not being able to make it to the Super Bowl. And now it seems just through all these big games, he's not only not able to perform, well, I guess that's not the right word because he is putting up stats, but he's
Right.
not able to close it out.
Yeah. No, I honestly I can't help but feel like it's very kind of Dak esque, almost even Romo esque, in
Yeah,
the sense that like he's performing, he's putting up numbers, he's even getting his team to like at least close to playoff contention. I mean, they're usually battling it out, but I agree. Or it seems like over the last few seasons, Josh Allen started off very strong earlier in his career, and then I don't know what it is, but because it just doesn't feel like it's like he's alone out there. I mean, he's got Diggs and he's got
yeah,
Davis, and he's got players around him, but for some reason they're just not quite able to pull it out. And then kind of like what you're saying, like just kind of like end of the games. Right now Josh Allen is 0-6 in overtime games. He's
yeah,
never won an overtime game, and I mean, that hurts, especially as a Bills fan. I mean, let's be honest, right? The Bills have had it rough since losing those four in a row in the '90s.
yeah,
I don't think it's ever really been the same for the Bills. And then in the early 2000s, even the early 10s and everything, like the Bills were bottom of the AFC, like they weren't playing very well. Honestly, just off the top of my head, I feel like during that time, the two worst teams I'm naming in the AFC were like the Jets and the Bills. Like
yeah,
they weren't playing very well. Then Josh Allen came in, and man, if he didn't come off like he was going to be their savior, especially that rookie season and everything, he played good ball, gave him a real shot. They made the playoffs and everything. He's done well, but like kind of what you're saying. It feels like he's teetered off the last few years and just hasn't quite been able to close it out and get them where they want to go. But I mean, luckily for Josh Allen and not necessarily for Bills fans, I don't think he's going anywhere. He's performing, like we just said. He
Yeah.
400 total yards, 5 touchdowns. uh, you're not just going to give up a caliber quarterback like that, especially for a gamble shot at a rookie in the draft. Like you just never know what you're going to get with that. Better to know what you have than go with door number 3 or whatever. But I don't think he's going anywhere. But you definitely start asking those questions and start kind of looking to him a little bit more, especially as he gets into like those more senior years. It's like, all right, you've been here for a while, like show us a little more leadership, and like you got to really kind of pull it out at the end. Those overtime losses are really hurting him, especially when I mean, he does play such high caliber ball, and he's got everybody around him. I just honestly can't quite tell you what it is that they're not doing that's getting him these losses.
Well, it's funny that overtime loss stat is sort of arbitrary because of the rules. I know they're different in the playoffs now, um, but
Yeah, that whole first
yeah,
touchdown loss.
once you get the win the coin toss, whatever you want to do analytically, the team who wins a coin toss has a better chance to win the game. Not in the playoffs. We're not talking about that because I know you can score a touchdown and still have a chance. But generally, because when he played the Chiefs in that that infamous game, just back and forth, he played perfect.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, I think he had 3 incomplete passes, threw for like 350 yards, and he just doesn't get a shot to win. So really, it's hard to peg it on him. But
Right.
you get it. It's one of those stats, just like Kirk Cousins prime time, just like Tony Romo in his career, just in that range of years, was I don't know if he ended up with the most, but he was top 2 or 3 in fourth quarter comebacks, which is weird because you think of Romo as he's not clutch, he's going to throw an interception, which he has done a lot too. So it's kind of like he's either going to throw the game winning touchdown or he's going to throw the game losing interceptions. It's all arbitrary, and I think if Josh Allen was on the Steelers, the Cowboys, maybe even throw the Patriots in there, but just because of recency bias, that he might have a harder time with his image than normal. Because most people they're the Bills. Nobody really hates the Bills outside of the AFC East teams. They're just kind of the lovable Bills. They've they haven't been very good since the '90s. And you're like, yeah, cool. I like Josh Allen. He's doing great. He's putting up stats. He's making the playoffs. And then just not being able to finish it off. I mean, he's still young. Who knows? They may come back, and I think they're still 6-6. You can always come back and win the Super Bowl. I think the AFC is a lot more wide open than we would have guessed at the beginning of the year. Because was it Jacksonville has the best record right now, or is tied for the best record with Kansas City? Or not Jacksonville,
Yeah.
Baltimore. Baltimore's up there.
Yeah.
But Jacksonville's right there too. And we thought it was Kansas City. I mean, especially, it's hurt that Aaron Rodgers got injured, and for some reason he might be coming back. I don't even know how, the Jets haven't been playing really well anyways. I don't know that Aaron Rodgers would be able to pull them out of that.
I mean, they'd be in a better position, I think, than they have been all season, especially with the big question mark under like Zach Wilson and then having to bench him for poor performance and everything. I just don't think you would have had that. Plus just the leadership that you get, the experience that you get from Aaron Rodgers. Um, it doesn't translate through the radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to be completely honest, like I don't know how much of the Jets game you caught this week, but um, honestly, I'm dropping on his name, but he looked lost that whole time, and you could see Aaron Rodgers is like wearing a radio and like talking to him the whole time. But it's like, man, you just as much as you communicate, with the guy, you like experience just doesn't necessarily translate to playability. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can tell them all day, like, oh, like watch the blitz on the edge, but if the guy comes in too fast, because honestly, that was the biggest thing for me was again, I'm blanking on his name, but he was kind of panicking like a second too soon. And it was
Yeah.
like, man, if he had just a little more experience and like hung in there for that extra second, he could actually get the ball out and, you know, maybe make some plays. But because he was like panicking just a second too soon, he was getting sacked and he was, you know, going down and unable to like scramble out or whatever he was trying to do and not throwing the ball, you know. And it was just the whole time you could see like even the frustration on Aaron Rodgers' face. And it's like, man, you just it doesn't translate over the radio, you know what I mean? But honestly, like if we're just talking about it a little bit, I think it's foolish for Aaron Rodgers to want to try and come back this season, considering the position of the Jets right now. I don't really think there's a whole lot of chance for them to squeeze into the playoffs or anything, especially
Yeah.
if he comes back like week 16. And that would be, I think I read that would be the fastest Achilles return by like 2 or 3 months. And I'm
Dude,
like, that's
if he
insane.
was able to come back this year, I think people would stop laughing about him for his, I mean, whatever, all the crap he takes, his wilderness retreats, his meditation, whatever his practices are. I think a lot more people will be paying attention to that if he's able to come back from an Achilles injury like that so quickly.
They'd
But
ask more questions for sure.
yeah, I agree that I mean, there's no reason for him to come back, right? I mean,
I agree. Come back fresh next year and just start
yeah,
over.
even if, let's say he comes back week 16 with, let's say he has 3 games left, they have to win all 3 and get some help. I still don't think, I mean, they're going to get a relatively good draft pick this year. Just, let him rest, take the year off, and
Right?
really get, because I don't know if there's still, I don't know I'm not a doctor, but you would think there's a higher chance of him re-injuring his Achilles than there would be if he waited another few months. So then if he hurts it, then you're talking about him coming back like maybe, you know, being fully healed around preseason time. And it'd be just easier to hold him back and really go for it next year, assuming, I don't think he would retire.
No, I totally
Unless
agree.
that's his thinking, like I'm just going to go play and then retire.
I mean, honestly, that's the only explanation I could think of, and the only real reason I could think of to come back in week 16 when your team's in such a position is to just retire after that. Because honestly, I mean, if we're really just talking about it, heaven forbid the guy comes back in week 16 and just re-injures himself.
Yeah.
Like now you've put your team in an even worse position because you wanted to come back in such a poor time. You know, it's like just take the extra time and heal and be ready to like train come spring ball. You know, like it just doesn't make sense to me to try and make a last ditch effort for the playoffs when it feels like, and I mean, at least for now, we're talking about, you know, how it goes for the next 3 weeks for the Jets and the position that they're in then when Aaron Rodgers can even come in. Heaven forbid. I mean, the Jets go on a 3 game win streak. I don't see that happening based on the way they've been playing ball. Their offense can't move. So I just don't see that happening. So it just, I think we're on the same page here. It just doesn't seem smart to put your team in that kind of position to do nothing, you know?
Yeah. A few years ago, I think it was 2015 when Romo got hurt, when they were able to draft Zeke, when they had the number 4 pick. Uh, they had a really competent team, obviously coming off of 2014 when they made the division playoffs, barely lost to the Packers on the Des Caught call. And
Totally
they
caught
were
it.
rushing for Romo to come back, and he came back. I want to say it was a Thanksgiving game, but it was right around there, and then he broke his collarbone again. But that you could see, like if they could just hold on until Romo got back, like they had a chance. But this doesn't even seem uh like outside of quarterback play, it still seems like a below average team. So you're like there's no shot. It's like, okay, if we can win 3 games, sneak into the playoffs, you still don't look at that roster as a Super Bowl contender.
Right.
I don't know, but you can, obviously you can tell we have an Eagles game coming up soon because we've been talking about Eagles more than the Cowboys' next opponent. A little more entertaining of a matchup. It's a team with a winning record now, with the Seahawks, and now we're finally going to be able to. I mean, they go out win by 30 points, and people still say it's just Geno Smith and the Seahawks. What are your thoughts on what we should expect Thursday night when they play when they play Seattle and Geno Smith.
Seattle just got annihilated by the 49ers this week. But I'm also willing to concede that
As did we.
yeah,
Not last week though. But yeah.
right, yeah, but we also got blew up by the 49ers. It would seem like I'm kind of expecting almost another kind of walk over them type game. I
Yeah.
expect it to be a little more competitive. I do think that Geno Smith is a better fit with Seattle than he ever was with like the Jets or anybody else, and I think his stats kind of show that a little bit more. But the way our defense has been playing, I almost feel like a broken record. I feel like I was saying this last week. The way our defense has been playing and everything, I fully expect us to get good pressure on there. I wouldn't be surprised to see another turnover. Geno Smith is definitely one of those guys that you put enough pressure on him, get enough hurries, get enough sacks on him and everything, he'll make some poor decisions. And Bland has just been all over those poor decisions by these quarterbacks. So I would expect the game to be a little more offensive. I would expect to see Seattle score, more than we've seen out of the last few weeks, especially against like the Commanders and the Giants and things like that.
Yeah.
But I definitely expect to see the Cowboys, score their 35, come out with another W. Um, I just I don't see us struggling too much against Seattle, just because of the way Seattle's been playing the last few weeks. Not exactly like lights out ball. They're also on a losing streak between the Rams and the 49ers. But um, I really expect our defense to be the one that goes out there, kind of dominates this game, and Dak does his thing. The way he's been playing, I'd probably bet for him to get another 200, 250.
Yeah, this is a team like obviously you worry about them looking forward to the Eagles game. But I think this is a good enough team where they're not going to do that. It's not like they're playing the Giants or whoever.
Right.
But they're favored. That's one thing that I can get, that they're not, out of all these blowouts. Yes, they're playing crappy teams, but they're not having any letdowns. They're not, mentally, their mindset, they're all good. They understand what they're doing. They have to rack up the wins. They're not just saying, no, we're going to come out here and play the the Commanders a few days after they just played Carolina and just rack up these wins. So I think mentally they'll all be there. We won't have to worry about it. They obviously should win this game. I'm thinking like a 30-20 win or something like that. I think they'll give up a few more points than they have been because it is a more competent team. But yeah, I think this will be a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm expecting like a 35-21 win. I would really, to be honest, I'd really like to see the Cowboys come out and get it started just a little bit faster than they did this week against Washington. Took them a little while to kind of get their rhythm going in that first quarter, scored late. But other than that, like I really like the way the Cowboys are playing right now. Pretty well rounded on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I'd love to see them be able to turn it up a little bit this week since they are playing, a better team. Somebody with an actual winning record and everything. But I don't think I have any like real concerns going into the game. Definitely just kind of expect the Cowboys to keep doing what they're doing. If they can keep this rhythm going that they've had for the last 3 weeks, I think it'll be a pretty good competitive game, but an easy win for the Cowboys.
Totally agree, Dan. Thank you for jumping on and taking over for Chris. Next week, I guess we'll be talking Cowboys Eagles. It'll be a lot more entertaining, or maybe not entertaining, but a lot more intuitive talk, Cowboys talk for us. Everybody, thanks for listening. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our page. Until next time, I'm Ashton.
I'm Dan.
See you later.